Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we'll be covering a topic that was inspired by one of my clients who recently ran into this issue, and I thought it would be a good video. So basically what this is we're going to be covering what procedures Social Security is supposed to follow whenever you report pay stubs, which would mean turn in pay stubs, as it would pertain to either Social Security disability insurance, which is SSDI, or supplemental security income, which is SSI benefits. So here we are back again at the policy operations manual, and we're looking at policy DI 13010.020, work reports and work receipts. Receipts is the key word here, and again, this is the primary purpose of today's video. So section A, description of a work report. A work report is a report of a change in work activity or earnings of a beneficiary receiving Title II, which is SSDI benefits, or Title 16, which is SSI disability benefits. We receive a work report. We receive work reports by phone, fax, mail, or in person. The report may include documentation of earnings such as pay stubs, W-2, a tax return, or a written or verbal statement. So this would be like an allegation, hey, I went back to work, here's how much money I'm making. Section B, explaining the reporting responsibilities. So this would be Social Security explaining to you your obligation of basically reporting work. So if you didn't know, some people don't, that's fine, but take it with this video. If you are drawing any type of disability benefit from the Social Security Administration, whether it's SSDI benefits or SSI benefits, or it's disabled widows benefits, or anything remotely having to do with disability, and you have started working, have been working, or anticipate going back to work, you are obligated to report that to Social Security right away. I tell people within 10 business days of either you knowing that you have secured a job or have started a job, within 10 business days, you should be telling them and really covering yourself, because that's how you create an overpayment. And in some cases, if you get busy with that work, or it's a job that works out or caters to your conditions, and you forget and time goes by, it can really be detrimental for multiple reasons, both based off of the benefits that you've been paid, but also as it might relate to Medicare purposes as well. I cannot stress it enough. Report your wages as soon as possible. Okay, so section B, explaining reporting responsibilities. Take every opportunity to tell beneficiaries or their representative payees to promptly report any changes in their work activity. So this would mean if you started work, you stopped work, you went to full-time, you went to part-time, whatever it might be, you need to report it. I would say the biggest thing that people don't consider when reporting their wages, especially if you're working in retail, normally the retail chain that you work for, whether it's a department store, a grocery store, clothing, shoes, whatever it might be, usually if the store performs well, you'll get a bonus. If you perform well, you could get a bonus. There's also holiday bonuses, vacation time, sick time, whatever it might be. You want to account for all of those things when you report your wages, or you give an estimate, realistically. You give an estimate of your wages. If you are a W-2 employee, Social Security counts your gross wages. I've said this in multiple videos in the past. So that's the higher amount of your paycheck that you don't see, right? So your gross wages are the total, your net profit or your net wages is what you take home. Social Security goes by your gross amount because that's what gets reported to the IRS, and that's what the tax burden is based off of. So keep that in mind, where you think you're going off of your take home, which maybe, let's say it's $1,000 a month, but your gross, which is what SSA will count, is maybe $1,600 a month. Now you're over the limit. Okay, so keep that in mind. Gross wages, gross wages, gross wages. Can't stress it enough. That's across the board with any benefit that you receive, gross wages. All right. Now, Section C, this is, again, the purpose of the video. Receipts for work reports. So when you report your pay stubs to Social Security, let's say that you are actually either turning in your pay stubs by fax, by mail, or in person. Make sure, especially if it's in person or by mail, particularly by mail, I guess, if you're mailing in your pay stubs or you're faxing them, you have to either put the BNC number from the letter that you recently got, or your Social Security number, or your name and your date of birth. If you don't have one of those things on that pay stub, when you mail it, fax it, or turn it in person, it might as well be as if you never turned it in, because they're not going to be able to locate your record. And especially if you're dealing with a lazy employee, let's say that your home address is on your pay stub. A good employee will send you a letter saying you turned in your pay stubs, but we can't identify your record because there's no personal identifiable information. Again, like a date of birth, your name, or your Social Security number, or a BNC number. If that sensitive information is not on your pay stub, it's like you never turned it in, and they're going to shred it. And basically, there's going to be no record that you ever turned that in. So super important. Make sure that there's something that identifies you specifically on there. It can't be your name and your address. It has to be your name and your date of birth, because then Social Security can basically query those things and look up your Social Security number. If you're comfortable with it, you can put your Social Security number on there. Or if you have a letter that you might have received at one point recently, there's something called a BNC number, and this basically is a mask for your Social Security number. So if you're worried about your mail getting stolen or lost or something like that, now you can put a BNC number, and you don't have to worry about your sensitive information being lost in the mail. Okay? But once you do that, Section C, subsection 1, mandatory issuance of receipts for reports of a change in work activity or earnings. So essentially what this means is, when you give Social Security your pay stubs, they are supposed to give you a receipt for each time you turn in your pay stubs. Whether, let's say, you get paid on a weekly basis, right? So you only have to report your pay stubs once a month. If you turn in your pay stubs on a weekly basis, realistically that's fine, but nothing is going to happen with them, because Social Security is going to wait for that month to close before they really calculate your total. So again, it doesn't matter if you report it weekly or in the following month, the same thing is going to happen. So normally what I tell my clients, report your pay stubs on a monthly basis. If you get paid bi-weekly, wait, and if it's a situation where, let's say, the end of if you get paid bi-weekly, let's say that the end of the second pay period week is the first week of the following month. And then realistically, you might get your pay stub, or it might be available the week after that, right? So once that month has been completed, then at that point, turn in your pay stubs for the entire previous month. I'm sorry about that. For the entire previous month. And once you do that, let's say you had 2 stubs or 4 stubs, right? If you got paid weekly. When Social Security issues you a receipt, it could be for 1 pay stub at a time, or if you gave them 4 pay stubs, on that 1 receipt, it will detail all 4 pay stubs. The pay period start date, the pay period end date, the pay period pay date, and the gross amount, right? It should have all of that information on there, and that is your proof that you turned it in. Then what I would recommend that you do is take a picture of it and email it to yourself, or if you have a folder at home that you keep all this in, do that. I also recommend my clients go to the dollar store, get a binder, a 3-ring binder, and keep everything in chronological order based off of date that you have done with Social Security. So I would have maybe like 1 tab of all of the notices that you received, or maybe a separate binder for all of the notices that you've received. And then, again, keep them in order by date, because if anything comes up, that's the easiest way to reference everything, because you can see how events transpired and when they transpired. And then also with your pay stubs, keep them in order by date. I cannot stress enough how much of a stress reliever it is when a client or a claimant or a beneficiary, whatever you want to call it, does those things. It is a tremendous amount of stress that's relieved compared to if you're working, you forget to report your work. Now you forget to keep track of your pay stubs. Now you're uncertain of if your benefits or your Medicare can continue. And then on top of that, let's say that you have kids. Now if you're not supposed to be paid, that means your kids are not supposed to be paid either. And it's going to add to your overpayment and your stress. And it gets bananas. Okay. So keep track of your pay stubs, report them timely every month if you are working, and make sure that you get a receipt. If Social Security, if you go to turn it in, let's say in person, and they say, oh, I can't give you a receipt, cite this policy. If they don't want to give you a receipt, ask for a supervisor and give them this policy. Let them know that it is mandatory. They must give you a receipt that you reported your wages timely. And if they don't, then at that point I would say watch my video on a congressional inquiry, and then you can bring that up, and then now the entire office might have a training session on how to issue wage reporting receipts. I've mentioned my website in other videos before, and I've done a video on this as well, but if you go to my website and you go to the resources tab and you click downloadable tools, and then you scroll down wage reporting log. So that binder that I mentioned before, if keep this in your binder as a way also on top of your receipts, so you have a quick, almost like an index of how often and when you've reported your pay stubs. So this is a great, again, index for you to keep track of your wages, make sure that your benefits that are paid when they're supposed to be or are not paid when they're supposed to be, and then you can keep track of when, hopefully, you'll come off of disability benefits, and it will be a smooth transition with little to no stress. So okay, I'm now exiting, the disability program, and then you'll be able to make a choice at that point whether you want Medicare to continue or not, depending on your situation and your finances, and then hopefully you re-enter the workforce and you can continue to have a fruitful career in whatever you're doing and come off of benefits.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your bell notifications so that you're always notified whenever I'm posting new content. If you have a question or want me to cover another topic, please leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to address it as soon as possible. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.